What's up? Welcome back to All Things Considered. And I wanted to revisit the Henry Ruggs situation. And if you don't know here, Henry Ruggs is the standout wide receiver that attended collegiately at Alabama. Was a very, very good or great college receiver drafted by the Las Vegas Raiders. The last draft class that John Gruden had drafted before he was abruptly terminated. But I wanted to talk about or bring it back up on the radar that it looks like the preliminary hearing has been delayed yet again. It was originally scheduled to go on this month, but it looks like it was delayed, or it has been delayed back to March the 22nd of this year. And I wanted to add another layer to it and just pretty much bring it back up on the radar, because I think his case, this is a complex case. And what this, I think, is going to do, this may set a precedent moving forward for anyone else who decides to make a bad choice. And I want to be the first to say, I don't think Henry is a bad person. I don't think he's a scumbag. I don't think he's any of that. He's just a young guy that had his whole future ahead of him. He had his life set because he was playing football at a professional level. And he probably went from rags to riches. His life literally changed. He's out with his girlfriend in Las Vegas, living the dream in a badass Corvette, right? And so youthful exuberance steps in, invincibility steps in. He decides to make that ill-fated choice to get behind the wheel inebriated, and he unfortunately took the life of Tina Tintor, 23 years old, along with her dog. And I wanted to revisit it, and then I want to talk about a couple other similar cases in which the NFL, in my opinion, the NFL slapped those players on the wrist. And I don't think that Henry's going to get slapped on the wrist this time. Henry's career may be over, but how the NFL sometimes will have a double standard, and how I think the NFL has a serious issue on its hands when somebody decides to go against the personal conduct policy. So we're going to talk about that on this episode of All Things Considered. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. And yes, I'm your host, Bearded Aquarium. Let's get started.
About 17 hours after this crash, all that remains here is the chalk that's left on the ground from investigators. And late tonight, a couple candles have been placed here, but what will likely play out next is a battle in court. The front end of the green Corvette police say former Raiders wide receiver Henry Ruggs was speeding in smashed. And just yards away, the charred remains of the Toyota RAV4, a 23-year-old woman killed, was driving. This dispatch audio from TMZ Sports gives a closer look at what first responders arrived to early Tuesday morning.
I just want to make sure you guys copy that there might be someone still inside the vehicle that's on fire.
The car is just like the fire extinguisher. There's no way it was going to keep up. We could have thrown in ours, but it wouldn't have kept up either.
Police say Ruggs rammed into the RAV4. The Toyota quickly caught fire. The woman and her dog did not survive. Amelia Botar woke up to the crash from her apartment alongside Rainbow Boulevard.
There was a screech and then a bang and then another tire screech. I woke up from the bang and then the screech, and my boyfriend was like, "Babe, it's bad."
Ruggs, whose girlfriend was also in the Corvette, stayed at the scene, but police determined he appeared under the influence.
So as stated, the preliminary hearing for Henry Ruggs as relates to his DUI case that resulted in the death of a young lady and her dog has been pushed back. And interesting enough, it actually has been pushed back quite a few times. If you recall, back in November of 2021, this is when the incident in question occurred very, very late at night. Henry Ruggs and his girlfriend, they're out a night on the town. Probably a typical night, and they've done that probably more than one time, of course. Not thinking anything of it, Henry is unfortunately inebriated, and he's driving while impaired. He at a high rate of speed, at approximately 156 miles per hour, at least estimated. And upon impact, 127 miles per hour when he hits Tina Tintor's car, again, which resulted in her death. He was arrested, booked, and charged with DUI and several other charges. He also had a weapon in the car, which is unfortunate. And this hearing has been pushed back several times. Initially, it was supposed to have occurred March 10th. This is March, I'm referring to 2022. So March 10th to May 19th. September 7th, and then finally to February 1st of this year. And now all of a sudden it's been pushed, as I stated earlier, to March the 22nd. And it looks like the issue is there's some type of disagreement or gray area between two presiding judges. One judge wants to keep it in her jurisdiction, while the other judge is trying to put it into his jurisdiction. Excuse my tongue's tied. But the bigger thing is, as the judges split hairs on who's going, I guess, cook Henry's goose, the issue remains at large as it relates to personal conduct of anybody. And these guys happen to be NFL players. And when I say guys, because I have several other cases that I want to bring into the forefront, and some of these cases are super old, they're in the past, but I think that once you have enough data to analyze and come up with a particular pattern or particular angle, I guess it'll help you assess and see if the punishment is fitting of the crime, not just in the court of law, but as it relates in the workplace. And these guys are all or were employed by the NFL. And, Henry Ruggs drafted to Alabama. He signs a 4-year deal. The current collective bargaining agreement states that rookies are to receive once negotiated, a fair contract, and the contract is guaranteed. And so he only played about a year and a half. He signed a 4-year, $16 million deal, again, fully guaranteed. I don't know the verbiage of his contract, but more than likely he played probably 30% of that contract. So does he have enough money? More than likely, but he'll probably have to expend that in a civil trial, because the family is going to more than likely request some monetary compensation, which is not going to bring their family member back. And then you also have to pay your legal defense team. It would behoove Henry to maintain a sane, a reputable criminal defense attorney firm versus trying to go the way of a public defender. With his current charges, he is facing as little as 2 years in prison and as long as 20 years based off Nevada state law. Now, nobody knows what's going to happen, but eventually at this point, I believe that this year the case is going to go to trial, or Henry has the ability, if offered, and he'll probably be offered a particular sentence. I'm certain that he's not going to want to go to jail, go to prison for those offenses. He may balk at those defenses and elect to take it to trial. And I think that's going to be a long, lengthy trial. And the result of the trial, I think, is going to force the NFL's hand. And this is going to probably scare everybody straight as it relates to personal conduct, as it relates to consuming alcoholic beverages, which I don't have an issue with. The issue is getting behind the wheel of a car when you are driving, or when you are under the influence of any narcotic or any type of alcoholic beverage that impairs your judgment and your cognitive abilities to operate a motor vehicle. Now, I want to also talk about a couple of other players. I want to talk about Dante Stallworth, and you guys may know who that is. He's was a pretty good receiver. He's played for a couple of teams, notably. He's played for the New Orleans Saints, the Philadelphia Eagles, and also the New England Patriots. And back in 2009, while being down in South Beach, that's in Miami, Florida, he decided to get behind the wheel of a car, and he unfortunately ran over a construction worker by the name of Mario Reyes, and his blood alcohol was way above the legal limit. It was 0.126. The legal limit in Florida is 0.08, which he essentially was suspended without pay for the entire 2009 season. Roger Goodell allowed him to be reinstated. He actually faced, now again, we're talking about Nevada and Florida, which states are completely different based off state law. The penalties, the guidelines are different. He faced up to 15 years in prison, but he only served 24 days of a 30-day sentence, and he decided to settle with the Reyes family for undisclosed sum of money. Now, he was punished, and he didn't play a year, so he did lose out on quite a substantial amount of money. But do you think that the punishment was fit for the crime? And so I want to know what your opinion is that relates to that. I also want to go back and also talk about the fact that you have Leonard Little, and Leonard Little probably came a lot before some other people. And some of you may be younger people and don't remember who Leonard Little was, but Leonard Little played for the St. Louis Rams, was an imposing, a dominant force on defense. And before he actually got drafted by the Rams in college, On his birthday, he was 24 years of age. He decided, night out on the town, nothing wrong with celebrating your birthday. The only issue is you get behind the wheel, as I stated earlier. He gets behind the wheel, he is drunk, he T-bones, and he kills a woman by the name of Susan Gutweiler. And, it's just, one of those things where, he's stopped, he's arrested, and he is .19 versus the .10, which is the legal limit of the time in Missouri. And he's given 4 years of probation, only 1,000 hours of community service, and only given 90 days in a city program or some type of work release program. And the only thing that the Gutweilers could do was essentially take him to civil court. And Leonard Little was suspended he was still drafted by the Rams in 1998. He was, suspended for the first 8 games of his rookie season. And he went on to play 12 seasons. He won a Super Bowl with the Rams in 1999, made a Pro Bowl in 2003. And he had a decent career and whatnot, right? But then the issue with, Leonard Little is that, he drinks and he drives, he kills somebody, he's slapped on the wrist, he's still drafted by a team, he's still drafted by an NFL team. Then several years later, he does the same thing. Now, fortunately, he didn't kill anybody, but he gets behind the wheel again. And guess what? He takes it to trial. And guess what? A jury acquits him of the charge of DUI. So if that's not a double standard, I don't know what is. And then finally, I want to talk about Josh Brent. And you may know Josh Brent, former Cowboy. He was out with a Cowboy teammate at the time. They're enjoying themselves. Again, nothing wrong with that. As they're driving, Brent loses control, and it results in the death of his teammate. And his blood test again twice the legal limit. So people are essentially, you're not buzzed, you are driving drunk. And so he faced up, based off of Texas law, up to 20 years, same as Ruggs. And he only spent 6 months in jail and got 10 years of probation. And following the accident, I guess he soul searched. He stayed away from football for 2 years. He came back to the Cowboys and played a couple more years, and then he was out of the NFL. And so I don't know what to really say, because I don't know how this case is going to play out. Henry has 2 obstacles in front of him. He has facing significant jail time. You're now in the information age where everything is readily available. The court of public opinion is going to hang you out to dry. And you don't know who's going to be on that jury. And you don't know, if you don't want to take a deal that they're trying to offer you, you lose at trial, you're going to go to jail for 20 years because you essentially not drunk too much. You got behind the wheel of a car, and you could essentially call a taxi cab. I'm certain the NFL has some program in place that will allow you to be able to go home and sleep it off. And if your car gets towed, you are an NFL player. You have enough money to get it out of the impound. So at the end of the day, I'm going to be watching this case, as I think everybody is. And again, if you go out at night on the town and you want to enjoy yourself, make sure that you have a designated driver, or make sure that you can call an Uber. And there are places, I know in my city, you can actually call a certain number, and they will actually pay for you a cab and take you home, and you can sleep it off. And again, if your car gets towed, well, that's totally up to you to get it out of impound. But you preserve your life, and you preserve the other lives of innocent people. So all the people that passed away as a result of these poor decisions, again, I'm not against the players that did it. I'm only assessing their actions, not their character as a human being. But rest in peace to those victims. Let me know what you think. Do you think he will resume his football career after getting these legalities out of the way, and then probably facing a lengthy suspension by the NFL if he is even reinstated? And let this be a lesson to each and every person. This is Bearded Aquarian. This is All Things Considered. Let me know what you think in the comments.